Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. A UAP whistleblower that was with the Air Force, like super high credentials, comes out and says, "Hey, I was a part of a team and we recovered exotic craft. And we also recovered an egg shaped UAP that's non human." Oh, yeah. So buckle up, Buttercup. Let's go. Is this full disclosure or is it more wag the dog carrot at the end of the stick? Well, either way, this is one heck of a carrot. So I'm going to share the news with you. We have a lot to talk about and several other articles. But first, wow. In a recent interview, News Nation has stepped up their game, at least in the UAP phenomena. Right now, I mean, things may change, but a United States Air Force veteran, Jake Barber, revealed his involvement in a covert government program tasked with retrieving unidentified aerial phenomena. As a helicopter pilot, Barber recounted missions to recover various downed crafts, some of which he believes were of non-human origin. He described encountering an extraordinary and anomalous egg-shaped object, noting its lack of an engine and other conventional features. Barber emphasized that upon visual inspection, it was evident the craft was non-human. Or so it appears. You can watch that at News Nation. I actually watched the whole thing last night and I started connecting dots and all the research I've been doing since like I popped into this world. There's some very interesting synchronicities that I'm going to share with you. Very interesting information. And I took notes. So we've got notes. One of the things that he had mentioned, and he said it very specific, and the way that he said it, it almost made me think like it was code, because in the interview with News Nation, when I'm referring to the whistleblower, and his name is Jake Barber, United States Air Force veteran. He was with a private team in a couple of or a private contractor, basically, and a couple of these projects, and one of them involved some weird, like James Bond kind of stuff. So he's really watching his six. We'll just say that for now. But the disclosure aligns with previous statements from other military personnel. Former intelligence officer David Grush has also alleged the existence of a secret U.S. government program dedicated to retrieving and reverse engineering non-human spacecraft. Grush claimed that the government has been recovering such crafts for decades, a statement that has prompted congressional interest and hearings on the matter. Okay, so the notes that I took, the interesting connections here, was the SUV-sized UAP that he had mentioned. Other military personnel have said the exact same thing, SUV-sized. The news is saying the same thing, SUV-sized. He also talks about a project, a psionics project, where people with leveled, highly advanced psychic and telepathic abilities that work for Pentagon and other organizations referred to as psionics. I used to study this stuff all the time. Like 20 years ago, I picked up books on psionics, and these little tiny books, you read them and you're like, whoa, is that true? Like, you ever felt like somebody was staring at you and you turn around and boom, somebody was staring at you. You could just feel the energy. It's kind of like that, but amplified. And there's certain techniques you can use, and there's certain modalities that you can use to enhance those abilities. But he was talking about how there's teams out there, and it reminded me of Stephen Greer, actually, some of the stuff that Stephen Greer mentions with the CE5 protocols. So the plot thickens, the rabbit hole thickens, or deepens, I should say. And he was talking about these teams that would actually call in craft and maneuver these craft, and then the military would have alternative motives sometimes behind the scenes, or maybe not the military, but other people involved in these operations. So there was this craft that was recovered, and let me see if I can show you, just do a little bit of a, okay, so one thing I wanted to show you real quick is how easy it is to create something that looks pretty real because I've been getting all sorts of recommends on videos and thumbnails and Facebook posts of these alleged craft that are crashed. Like there's this one where there's a group of people that are what appears to be in hazmat suits, and they're looking at this craft that is like a downed drone, but it's artificial intelligence, and it's real easy to tell. First of all, there's so many keys that give it away, but one thing that gives it away for sure is when you look at the people in the background and you look at their faces close, you can tell that they're wavy, and it's AI. It's getting easier to manipulate people now with AI. This is something that I created in a few seconds with the software program that's available through ChatGPT and OpenAI. And I just put in a prompt. Let's make us, because I'm trying to figure out this scenario where these drones shoot out of the ocean. The Coast Guard watches it happen. They have a 47-foot vessel. About 60 of these drones shoot out of the ocean. They start to surround and swarm the 47-foot the Coast Guard vessel. Personnel come out and talk about it. Then they get upset that the White House didn't give the UAP phenomenon enough credit, basically, because they downplayed it a bunch. Like, oh, they're just normal airplanes. They look like airplanes. Everything that you're showing us, it's Venus or swamp gas or it's an airplane. They're like, wait a second. That's not what these things were. But they didn't come out and officially say what they were. Then we find reports of personnel picking up these like visuals of what appears to be V-shaped drones. But look at how easy it is to make something appear to be real and it's not. Well, here you go. See if I can play this. Oh, no, it's just, oops. It's not what I meant to do. All right. So you see this. Now, I just put in as a prompt, make 47-foot Coast Guard out off the coast, and then have metallic spheres shoot out of the ocean and swarm the vessel. And you could tell pretty quick it's not real, but if you take a screenshot and then you come up with an elaborate thumbnail, like an elaborate title, and it's so easy for something like this to spread like wildfire and have people think it's just artificial intelligence or some type of software program. So just be prepared, not scared. Now, News Nation. This is the article you want to read. You want to watch the 45-minute special. I watched the 45-minute special last night. It was great. So News Nation checked Barber's records, which is the UAP whistleblowers you can see on the right there, and confirmed that he was an airman in the United States Air Force who worked as an aerospace mechanic in the late 1990s. Now, I have a synchronicity. I have a parallel I'm going to share with you. Somebody that I interviewed that is a former U.S. Army helicopter pilot, Jimmy Jones. You know the guy. He's a stud. He's awesome. He's came on many times. Something happened to him several years ago after he retired in his cabin that has forever changed his life. It has forever changed the way he thinks. He's even been to get what you could label as a diagnosis on the condition that he has now, because he sees things differently. He visualizes things differently. He interprets things differently now. And it's absolutely incredible. But he had an experience where something showed up in his cabin, this orb that shows up like a, go back and watch the interviews I did with him because they were amazing. But anyway, this experience he had, his wife was there as well. Absolutely mind-blowing experience. And now he can write books in so like hours. And you have to read these books over and over and over again. He can just connect all these dots. It's incredible. I can't remember what the exact term is, the diagnosis that he said it was, but it's something that if you think of like a savant or super genius, super creative, that's what happened to him after he retired. He is a former helicopter pilot for the U.S. Army. He's retired. Very nice, very kind man, very honorable and very humble. And he has shared his experiences with us. Remember, he's a helicopter pilot for the Army. This gentleman right here is also a former helicopter pilot. And he had an experience that forever changed him on one of his recoveries of these high target crafts that could potentially be non-human. So he's doing a recovery and he has this just overwhelming experience where his emotions just, he feels like something has entered his spirit and basically possessed him. And he said it was the most amazing thing that's ever possessed him, is basically what he says. Go back and watch the video. And he gets emotional when he talks about it. You can tell he just immediately gets emotional, like Jimmy does when he talks about it. You could bring it up 10 times and he'll get emotional every time. Jimmy will. And so this guy, I'm looking at the parallels and the body language and the way that they just light up when they think about that experience. And it's pretty powerful, folks. I'm getting actually goosebumps just thinking about it. So the experience that he had, basically, he felt like he's connected with one of these beings. And the way that he described these psychic teams that call these craft down to interact, it reminded me that our brains and our bodies are transmitters as well as receivers. And so they're connecting to these beings wherever they are. They could be right in front of us and we just don't see them, possibly because they're in a different light spectrum. They're using, we're picking up about 0.1% of the electromagnetic light spectrum, and we only hear, if we've got incredible hearing, about 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. That's such a small spectrum of what is around us that as a highly advanced being, even maybe just 10, 50 years ahead of us, you could have the ability potentially to navigate unseen through frequency, through dimension, whether or not they come from another planet, whether they're from here. Now, the Battlestar Galactica theory, the Cylon theory, the very first blog that I ever did was Humans Are the Real Cylons. That was the very first blog post that I ever did. You can actually go back and see it on Godlike Productions from like 14 years ago. And remember that forum? Yeah, that's a trippy forum. Talk about extreme. But anyway, if you can make it through boot camp through there, then yeah, you'll get it. Is it time to bring in the tomato plants? Still got some really cool stuff on that forum. I don't go there that often anymore. But anyway, so, and if you think about it, we are kind of the Cylons. If you think about the mythologies, and if you look at some of this ancient history that is available, if you follow the theories of the mythologies where we were created to do the work for the gods, they created us in their image. Well, in Battlestar Galactica, we created the Cylons. The Cylons wanted to do their own thing. Then they came back and they got the battle of humans and the Cylons. And then there's this angelic presence. Wow. Thank you for the $20 super chat. It's crazy. So since there's a super chat, let me pause that and I'll answer your question. It's crazy. What is your opinion on Corbell saying they're going to lie to us and say there is a massive spaceship head towards Earth and we'll get here by 2027, but all the evidence points the UAPs are coming from the ocean? Okay, they're coming from all over. They've got, most likely, based on the data and the whistleblowers and the photographic stuff and the videos, it appears that there's stuff in the ocean. We see them coming in and out of volcanoes in Mexico quite a bit, whatever they are, these anomalies. They appear to, and that's another thing that was mentioned. That's another thing that Jake Barber mentioned, was that these things can come out of cliff sides. They can come out of mountains. They can come out of physical objects. And so that's some interdimensional kind of stuff. Now, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily interdimensional, but they have the technology to be interdimensional. You would have to have some type of force field protecting you, though, if you're a humanoid like we are and we're going through different dimensions and such and we're staying intact. We would have to have the technology to protect us in a force field of some type. Otherwise, would turn, like, who knows what would happen to us. Think about the Philadelphia experiment and what allegedly happened to some of the crew members that were involved in that. I mean, I remember hearing stories of people at a bar that all of a sudden this submarine appears and there's these people and then it disappears again. And they're like, what the heck just happened? And it was a different time. And if you can figure out how to warp the magnetics around you, these magnetic fields, you could warp time as well, because there's some type of connection there. And so they could also go in different times, not just travel space. That's a key link right there. Mark my words right here. That is a key missing point of time. They can dilate time. They can manipulate time. So if we go back, that totally explains it. I just figured it out. Wow. I just figured it out. So we go back to 1952, the UFO flap, where there's anomalies in the skies for 17 days, right? These anomalies in the skies for 17 days, whether they were man-made or non-human intelligence, they were flying over the Capitol during the same time there's congressional hearings going on. It's for 17 days in 1952. And then we go 71 years from that date to the flyovers in Langley. There's flyovers in Langley that take place for 17 days, 71 years later. So you reverse the 71, you have 17 again. Now, who is taking office tomorrow officially? President-elect Donald Trump will be taking office tomorrow officially, unless something drastic happens. And we all just saw the White House video where the gentleman, what's his name? Jake? Hold on a second, let me pull this up. January 13th, 2025, the press briefing. What's the gentleman's name? I just can't remember off the top of my head. But he comes out and he says, you know, this is hopefully going to be the last time you see me, but something could happen in the next few days. And if it, you know, and that was very interesting to see that. So anyway, we've got 17, 71, 17. And President-elect Donald Trump, a lot of people, for some reason, think of the letter Q when they think of President-elect Donald Trump because of the and I'll tell you, folks, I don't know enough about Q as far as the movement, because it seemed like it got infiltrated pretty quick, and I don't know who started it, but it seemed to get too extreme too fast, and that's what happens to a lot of ideas, is they can get infiltrated and they can just kind of have a mind of their own, but then there can be agendas behind that. So the initial cause can be something completely different. I've seen that happen many times in the past with many different movements. So, but it's interesting, the letter Q, the number 17, the 17th letter in the alphabet is Q. And then we've got these UFOs or these UAPs or these drones that fly over President-elect Trump's golf course. Very interesting. Why are you flying over a golf course? Now, I have a theory on that, but I probably need to talk about that later. But regardless, so now we're starting to see the bigger picture here. If you have a non-human intelligence or even a human intelligence that can manipulate time, that can manipulate the gravitational fields enough to go back in time and create an effect. So, like, I'm thinking to myself, how is something so advanced that it can give these codes of 17 or 71 or Q in a course of 70 plus years? How would they be able to do that? Well, if it's an artificial intelligence, it could just go to sleep for 70 years and then reactivate when the time is done based upon its coding. And another potential is if you have a race or a civilization, whether they're human or not, that has the abilities to go back and manipulate time, then you could create this phenomena, which might only take you a course of a few days, course of 17 days, and then you could move back in time. or, 17 plus 17 plus 17. So it'd be 51 days if you took 17 times 3, but you wouldn't have this gap of 71 years. But there's something there. They're telling us something, and it could also be connected to the 17th degree of being a traveler. Like if you're, I think the 17th degree in Freemasonry is the traveler, which is pretty remarkable. You'd be traveling from east to west, I think, or maybe from west to east, but you'd be traveling east. Yeah, you'd be traveling east towards the sun, the path of the sun. Ooh, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking of this. So anyway, now, where am I going with this? Well, let me do a quick summary. If things go the way that everything goes smoothly the next few days here, or as smoothly as possible, who would be the best, like the disclosure time, the time of disclosure? Number 47. Yeah. The 17, the Q. The Q could have some type of ET connection. The real Q, like Star Trek Q. Think of Star Trek Q. There's a lot more to the letter Q. Oh, that's interesting. You know what else? Jimmy, my friend Jimmy, that the fighter pilot or the helicopter pilot that's retired, that had the experience that forever changed him. In the interviews that we've done, the podcasts that we've done, he always has this emphasis on Q. Very interesting. And Tesla's coming in. Tesla's coming in somehow. The Tesla, the great uncle of Trump, getting access to the files of Tesla at the hotel. He was one of the, if they actually did get some type of technology that allows them to manipulate the magnetic fields enough to alter time. And then there's the book. Then there's the book of the time travelers and Baron Trump and then the purchase of and then if there is an usurping of Greenland and Canada and all this brought in, you've got this supercontinent now, which is depicted in maps that are, that go back generations, these generational old maps that show these supercontinents and these grids. And there must be, this is going to go hand in hand. I've been thinking about this since I was just a little kid, since I read Revelation the first time in the biblical text, because that seems to be a part of this playbook. There will be, before we're allowed into this galactic council, there's got to be a unity of governments on the planet. So you would have these supercontinents. Now, also think about the Reagan connections. Let's go back to the 80s, right? We've got President Reagan saying that it would take an off-world threat to bring the world together. 40 years later, 45 years later, what are we experiencing? War of the Worlds. The town in New Jersey where it all starts. The invasion in the War of the Worlds play is in New Jersey. It starts in a little town in New Jersey. Where are all the mystery drones being reported outside of the military bases? Because I've got a list of sites that we can go over that are around the world. The majority of the drone sightings in the news, and many of the drone sightings, are being reported in New Jersey. But you talk to the mayors out there, and there was a group of 181 mayors that got together, and I had the opportunity to speak to the former mayor of Pequannock. Very nice. And he had mentioned what he had seen going over his house. One day he saw, I think he said about 60 of these drones, but then he described them as being like small planes with what sounded like small jet engines. But then when I asked if we could take, if I could go out there with night vision and Gen 3 night vision and camera equipment to take photos, he said, yeah, but that's not really going to work. And we're going to get at, because he had mentioned defense contractors that have access to multi-million-dollar equipment and technologies that are, you know, working on the cutting edge stuff, and so that wasn't sufficient in certain circumstances to capture these things. But if they look like a plane, they're not coming out of the ocean. If they look like a plane, they're not going to the reservoir, unless that's just what they look like and they're actually something different. Imagine it being some type of orb technology with the ability to have a hologram around it. Now that's cutting edge. If you could create a spherical drone with a hologram that could change shape, that could change color, that could create lights, then you could evade capture. You could create hysteria. You could look like you're a B-12. Or wait, is that the right? Like a B-1-2 bomber? Or you could look like some type of weird flashing orb. That could be a missing link. So you could use holographic technology combined with cutting edge dronotics. And you could talk about a way to create hysteria. And look at all the new bills that are being pushed into place, right? All these new bills, surveillance methods, the shutting down of airspace. There were reports that none of these drones were seen over Thanksgiving. There's just all these weird reports that are being pushed out there. And a lot of them, I wonder if are intentionally being brought out. And that can muddy the waters. So you're like, oh, well, we've got this. So is it really, like, how do we know it's really true that there weren't any sightings on Thanksgiving? Do we really know that just because the news says that? I'll bet you there were sightings on Thanksgiving. I doubt it just now, maybe a lot of them went blank, but maybe once again, we got to go to the all of the above. It's not just one thing, folks. There's so many different layers in this multi-dimensional reality that we're experiencing right now. It's so phenomenal. And the timeline, the 2030 timeline is so important because that's when they want to have official disclosure. But it looks like something's bringing it in faster, around 2025. Now, even though we're going to have these even though it seems like everything is moving towards what was pushed 50, 60, 70, 100 years ago with these supercontinents and a one world system, and then we can go all the way back to Revelation. And if you take Revelation and you interpret the New Jerusalem that descends from the heavens, it's very symbolic, and it also seems to be a guide that is bringing a lot of these, because you've got astrotheology in Revelation as well. You've got astrotheology, you've got philosophy, you've got possibly hallucinogens. And it's put together, and then there were councils that put this together. So it wasn't just one person that interpreted this. It was a multitude of it was a multitude of bodies that put this together. And now we're seeing things unfold that were talked about in the New Testament and the Old Testament, locations in the U.S. with the recent X that was created and formed over the eclipse paths, the path of the Chinese balloon that was shot down by a fighter jet. Well, that had a very similar path to the recent 2017 eclipse path. And then in 2023, it created that X. And then if you looked at the totality paths, looked within certain regions, not exactly every time, but within a certain, pretty darn close, you had towns named Nineveh and Jonah was the name of one of the towns. There was Little Egypt and Illinois, and these locations lined up with some of these biblical texts. And then if you go further and you look at it outside of thinking that it was just divine providence that somehow like wrote it down and then like, here you go, and the people are like, yay, look. No, it was more of, trust me, divine intervention is definitely involved, but it appears that there's these governing bodies and these ruling bodies that are linked to religions and governments and dynasties and civilizations that go back thousands of years. And then they're able to line it up with these textbooks. And then that to me seems like there is a higher level at play here. They're using math, and maybe math is enough to do it, but it seems like there's these other intelligences, these non-human intelligences that are playing this out, and we are the characters in this play. Whoa, Truman Show. And the timelines that we're looking at right now, it definitely seems as if, because like here, let me show you what this thing looks like. What's that? Here we go. This is from News Nation. This is an image from a helicopter, night vision, and it's picking up, as you can see, it looks like an egg. If you look at that, it looks like an egg with a face mask on. Well, it's an egg, all right, but it's actually being lifted up by this chain that's going down about 150 feet, and it's picking up this orb-looking thing. Well, it's not an orb, it's like an egg. It looks like an egg. That egg has the characteristics of these spheres that many people have seen, including myself. And this is pretty freaking cool. Well, this is what these teams have had the opportunity to go out and capture. And so you reverse engineer that technology. Now, let's go to the Cylon theory here for a second. But let's say this was created from a synthetic intelligence, possibly thousands of years ago, tens of thousands of years ago. If you were to colonize this, this is where the ET disclosure movement thing is what I see. Those out there that are saying, you know, we're not alone. We can communicate with ETs through telepathic protocols. Like, that's all great and that's wonderful. And let's look at the bigger picture here. How long do you think they've really been here, folks? I mean, that's where we need to talk about this. Who do you think possibly made us? But then you have, or genetically modified, genetically enhanced. Who knows what genetics might have been involved and how long ago, and the involvement, and it all starts to make sense. And maybe the powers that be, in certain circumstances, actually do want some type of order and not just order out of chaos. And maybe they don't want new religions to be spawned and new, you know, thoughts of gods and goddesses when they make themselves known. So in order to make sure that doesn't happen, you would have to have some type of conditioning take place for many years or generations. And maybe the beings that come back don't even want that. Maybe they want to come back and be like, look, those religions that you started back in the day, well, we're sorry about that. We didn't know it was going to get that out of hand. We've done it before. We've done it here before. We've done it on other planets. It's a great way to keep people at a certain, you know, like, they don't have to worry as much because it's all figured out. It's in this book. They just read the book and they're like, okay, if we follow the rules, it's going to be okay. And then we'll get this, and you know, it's all going to be all right because it's in the book. So, but then what if people take control of that and they're like, well, let's change that book a little bit. Let's add a little bit. Let's take a little bit away. Let's use it for this agenda. Let's use it for that agenda. Well, maybe you shouldn't be interpreting it that way, because when we translated the language, it was a little bit different. People don't really understand. You know, not all languages jive together. The Hebrew version versus the English version, or which English version are we talking about here? And who actually wrote that anyway? So, I mean, it's a very complicated matter here, folks. When you've got 7.5, almost 8 billion people on the planet that have this spark of divinity within them, that could be something extraordinary and also extremely frightening, then what do? You're like, oh man, we were the ones that gave them that. Maybe, what are we going to do now? Another flood? No, not another flood. We tried that. It didn't work anyway. We're going to have to do something different. I mean, I don't know, folks. This is pretty deep. It is getting deep. I mean, because I'm watching Jake and I'm like, wow. I am so amazed that there's definitely somebody watching out for him. He's got some guardians and some guardian angels watching out for him as well. Well, I mean, and you might say, well, you know, it's what if what now here's another possibility. Maybe I'm so excited about what I'm seeing, and I've talked to people and I know people and I've had my own experiences of non-human intelligence. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. That I want to believe, right? I'm like, well, I want to believe. So I'm missing out on certain cues or certain body language that if I was totally neutral, I might pick up on. And that's a possibility. So, but the problem is most people that leave comments about stuff where they act like they're experts, they have very little idea. They're repeaters. They're not researchers. And I don't mean offense to that because I've done it in the past. I did it for years and I still do it sometimes. You know, I'm like, wait a second, I gotta dive deeper into this and I gotta do more research into this. Look into your source, look into your source's source. Get all the data you can on something that you're gonna put your faith into, because that's the most important thing there is. And don't use it as a crutch. Like it's there and it can be very beneficial to have faith. It can be very powerful, very rewarding. And it can also be like if you just have faith because you're lazy, then it's usually not going to be as effective. But anyway, so all this is happening right now, and we've got like former intelligence officers David Grush alleging the existence of secret U.S. government programs, Stephen Greer. There's a long list of people, and I've got a list that I'll share with you here in a minute. But what perfect timing. What perfect timing. 2025, Q, the Q, the Tesla. Oh, yeah. And then, interesting enough, right? Elon Musk, Tesla, Elon Musk, President-elect Trump. We go back to Trump's uncle. Was it his uncle or his great uncle? Did a podcast on this a while ago. Got access to thousands and thousands, like we're talking trunks, thousands of documents that Tesla had in his hotel after he passed. Like what kind of stuff did they get access to? What kind of technologies? How far did they take those technologies outside of the official government? Like defense contractors outside of the official government can do things that have a lot more paperwork within the federal government. Maybe. Possible. Allegedly. So I've heard. But this is pretty wild. And the timeline of the 2030 and these supercontinents, the 7117, 71Q, it's all starting to connect. The fighter pilots, the helicopter pilots, the special programs, the timeline also with the Earth's magnetic fields acting all weird. They have slowed down a little bit. The speed is about 34 miles per year right now versus I think it was 30. It was moving at 34 miles a year, the magnetic pole, and now it's slowed down to about 22 miles per year, but it's still moving in a very bizarre fashion. And then we've got scientists studying the core of the Earth with seismic waves. I know we haven't physically been there yet, at least publicly they've told us, but these seismic waves and these earthquakes that they're looking at the data is showing that the core is acting weird. It's slowing down, even though just fractions of a second. The Earth's tilting a little bit. There's a lot of weird stuff going on with the planet. Now, if we look at the bigger cycles, we go back to a time when there were 40,000 year cycles of ice ages and warming periods, and then that changes to 100,000 year cycles. So from 40,000 to 100,000 years, what would cause such a drastic change in a cycle like that? Well, I have some information to share with you about that, and I think it's quite interesting. And where's it at here? This is the article about how scientists brought back a dead brain cells of a pig, and they were able to reanimate it basically. But I'll get into that in a minute. I want to stay focused here. No, my mind is not for rent. Do any kind of government. All right, what was I talking about? Where was I? Oh, yeah. Yes, I remember. Right here. Boom. This is it. For all of you out there that swear there was a time when a massive planetary body entered our solar system and messed with the orbits of the planets, you're probably right. Now, your timeline on those events could be way wrong. Way wrong. And it doesn't necessarily happen every 3,600 years like some people have predicted. Zachariah Sitchin is one example that has created a phenomena that thousands of people swear that, and that's swear by him. And that's totally, if that's your belief, that's cool. I've studied enough of his work and other works to realize a lot of these ancient alien theories are actually referring to the zodiac and planetary alignments. And it's fascinating. But not all of them by any means. So I think that there needs to be, once again, that all of the above possibility, or most of the above, not just one or the other. But this recent study, this is really cool. Live Science, an interstellar visitor may have changed the course of 4 solar system planetary bodies. And big ones, folks: Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. That's correct. A recent study suggests that an interstellar object, possibly a rogue planet or dwarf brown dwarf, may have passed through our solar system long ago and significantly altered the orbits of Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Now, could that be referred to as Nibiru? Because Nibiru actually means the crossing. Did you know that? Or is Nibiru Jupiter or Saturn or none of the above? Well, it does mean the crossing. And if there was a time that this massive planetary body or brown dwarf shows up and it causes these other massive planetary bodies to move orbit, that could be referred to as the crossing. It's a pretty big deal. So researchers believe that a massive, and actually, I think I know. Yeah. Okay. I'll tell you later. Maybe if I can. I don't know, but I can't tell you. Researchers believe that a massive object, potentially several times the mass of Jupiter, may have swung through. It's a swinger through the solar system billions of years ago. Sorry, I had to say it. I was joking. Coming close to Mars' current orbital path. This close encounter could have nudged the 4 outer gas giants into their slightly out of round and lifted orbits. The orbits of our outer planets exhibit slight deviations from the ideal perfectly circular orbits that are expected in a pristine solar system. While previous theories have focused on interactions within the solar system to explain these deviations, the new study suggests that an external influence, like an interstellar visitor, could be a more plausible explanation. Guess what? The article just came out 5 hours ago. So if you go to the brighter side of news, though, this is another Jupiter-sized interstellar visitor may have reshaped our solar system. This could be what sometimes people refer to as Planet X or Planet 9, potentially. Batagen and Brown, Planet 9, they demote Pluto. And Pluto, you're still a planet. We know you're still a planet. I wouldn't demote you. I wouldn't even consider it. They got some serious, you got to have some cojones, man, to demote a planet. I mean, seriously? I wouldn't even want to demote an asteroid. Hello. Did you see the size of that asteroid? That's got some serious asteroid going on there. Where is my mind at? I'm going to drink some more of this mushroom coffee. It's delicious. I put some honey in here. My friend Alien Allen, he gave me some honey about 2 years ago, this jar of honey. Delicious. Thanks, Alan. How you doing, brother? It's amazing. So delicious. I mixed some Boomer Boost in it. I got some Boomer Boost and I mixed it in there and I'm like, oh, dude, Boomer Boost is freaking amazing. The Boomer Boost, the Gladiator Barley, love it. Love it. It's awesome. I take it every freaking day and you should too. Use the code REX20. You'll get 20% off. BoomerBoost.com. That's a quick shameless plug brought to you by Leak Project and Boomer Boost. What's the impact, though? The study suggests that the encounter with the interstellar object may have reshaped the orbits of the outer planets, leaving a lasting impact on their current trajectories. If confirmed, this hypothesis would provide a compelling explanation for a long-standing puzzle in planetary dynamics. It would also highlight the role that interstellar objects can play in shaping the evolution of solar systems. Now, what if that's what actually caused the massive canyon on the face of Mars that takes up about a third of the face? What if that's what caused Venus to get, like Venus and Mars were at one time in perfect harmony with each other. They loved each other. You can read about it in the stories of Dumazid and Inanna. They're beautiful stories. And then things go haywire. Like Inanna's descent to the netherworld. And then she comes back and she sees Dumazid sitting on the, like on the throne. He's having fun. He's like, yeah, this is awesome. But meanwhile, she's in hell and she has to like pull herself out of hell. And he's having fun on the throne. And then what does she do? She's like, all right, demons, take him. She could have given up her hairdresser. She could have given up somebody else, but she decided to replace, in order for her to get out of hell, she had to replace herself with somebody else. And so she picked Dumazid because he was having way too much fun without her. And so she's like, him. And then she regretted it after. But these are stories of mythology, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it took place with with a goddess or a god that looks like we do, but much more beautiful and, perfect in every freaking way you can think of because they're gods and goddesses. But anyway, they're like, we're going to make humans just a little bit less we're going to make them smaller and a little bit more. We're going to drop their IQ points about 50. We're going to make them a few feet shorter, and we're going to give them what's called lifespans. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're giving them what's called lifespans. That way, if they act up too much, well, they won't be able to do it too long. They have what's called a lifespan. If you could create people and travel the stars, you would probably have your genetics, like your lineage and your genetics refined to where you could live as long as you wanted to. Probably even figure out ways to transfer consciousness into different avatars and different bodies. It'd be very, very possible. So that is the theory of Rex Bear and the Anunnaki. Let's see here. What do we got next? Yeah, this is fun. This is fun. In a groundbreaking study, scientists have demonstrated the potential to restore certain functions in a dead brain, but with significant limitations. Researchers at Yale University developed a system called Brain X. It's kind of like FedEx, but it doesn't deliver packages. Now, this process, which circulates a synthetic solution, making blood through the brains of pigs 4 hours after death, so they used it on pig brains. This process restored some cellular functions, such as oxygen and glucose, metabolism, reduced cell death. However, it did not receive consciousness, global brain activity. The study published in Nature suggests that some cellular functions in the brain can be restored post-mortem, challenging previous notions about the finality of brain death. Nonetheless, the absence of organized electrical activity indicates that the brains did not regain awareness or perception. The research opens avenues for studying the brain's resilience and developing treatments for brain injuries, but it also raises ethical considerations regarding the definition of death and the potential for brain resurrection or Okay, so this is making me think of the TV show The Walking Dead. It's making me think of all the zombie movies. And remember when everything was freaking zombie movies? I'm so glad that has faded away. Now, there's still, every once in a while a new zombie show comes out, but there was a while there where entire networks, The Walking Dead Part 2, The Walking Dead that also run, The Walking Dead that run and swim, The Walking Dead that run and swim and fly, The Walking Dead that run and swim and fly and get into spaceships now with laser beams. It's like there was an offshoot of an offshoot of an offshoot of an offshoot of an offshoot. I'm like, come on. And then it just got more and more gruesome. I finally had to quit watching Walking Dead when what's his name that became a real popular guy he had like the bat. Remember that? And there was the a character that I really liked. I think he's Japanese. I don't remember his name because I haven't watched it in so long. But anyway, that scene, I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm not watching this anymore. I don't even know how I made it that far. But anyway, so they're like, how can we make it more gory today? Well, this is what we're going to do. And I can't even say it on here. So anyway, that's what I think of when I think of scientists resurrecting pig brain cells. Oops. What if that gets out of the lab? And then I've been studying up on mirror life. Have you read up on mirror life? Oh, that's even creepier. Mirror life is basically like DNA that uses a little bit different code. So our DNA can't really tell what it is. And it's spooky as hell. And they're like, well, if this was to get out of a lab, it could potentially kill everything, but it might not. And there's also benefits to it. So it's like, wait a second. You just told us that this could be one of the most devastating things to life on the planet, but there's benefits to it. Oh yeah. Like timeshare. I'm not convinced, but hey, it's just an article, right? Who knows what's real anymore on these things? Are you even real? Some people think they're in a simulation running around like ones and zeros. 1001001 SOS. 1001001 in distress. But that's okay. That's okay, because did you know that not only do humans hallucinate, but artificial intelligence hallucinates, and oftentimes more than people do? Yeah, it's called artificial intelligence hallucinations. It's amazing. You want to go on a, I brought this up before. The future, in the near future, you're going to be able to wear certain headsets and headphones, and there's going to be certain like sensor packs on your body tech, like suits, body tech suits with sensors, and basically it's going to be digital trips. You're going to be able to link to the machine and experience what the machine experiences. And the machine's going to be able to tap into you and experience. So you're going to have this merger with the machine where you're going to be like, I'm looking at you, you're looking at me. I've already done this before. It's pretty fascinating. The first time I had an experience like that where I actually tapped into somebody else's consciousness and I felt like I was in a movie. Like, those movies and those TV shows where people will basically, they'll wake up one day and they're not them, they're somebody else. And they look in the mirror and they're like, ah! They're like pulling, like, is that, what the heck? Well, it was like that. Well, you're going to have an experience like that in the near future, possibly. Like people will, if they so choose. And it's going to be weird. It's going to be, oh man, phones are going to be, yeah. What's a phone? Phone's going to be an 8-track. I'm telling you. Some people are going to hold out. They're going to say, nope, I'm just going to do wearables. But then there's going to be those that are like, no, man, I want the implant. Hook me up with the latest T1000 incubator. T1000 incubators that go directly into the cerebral cortex. You're going to love it. You will fill the machine while the machine fills you. It will reactivate your cerebral cortex every morning for optimal pleasure. You will feel amazing. It will actually send the nanobots into your body to let you live in perpetual harmony with the machine. It's going to be amazing. Double obrigado, Mr. Roboto. Apple's recent suspension of its AI-generated news summary feature in the iOS 18.3 beta highlights significant challenges in deploying artificial intelligence for news dissemination. The feature designed to condense news content into brief notifications faced criticism after producing inaccurate and misleading summaries. Notably, the BBC reported instances where Apple's AI falsely claimed that tennis star Rafael Nadal had come out as gay, and that darts player Luke Littler had won the PDC World Darts Championship before the event occurred. You can read about that at them. What? Are you serious? Like, out of all the things you had to have fake news about, it's that? Can you have picked something else to have fake news on? No, you had to pick that tennis player guy. Really? Really? You were Oh, it was a hallucination that the AI had. So that tells me that if that's the artificial intelligence is hallucinating about tennis players. Yeah. So these inaccuracies, known as the Hallucinations in the AI community occur when AI systems generate content that appears credible but is factually incorrect. The prevalence of such errors in Apple's summaries led to the public complaining from major news organizations, including the BBC, which emphasized the importance of maintaining trust through accurate reporting. AP News. In response to these issues, Apple announced plans to release a software update. We will update that software and make sure it changes its hallucinations. Aimed at improving the accuracy of its AI-generated summaries, the company stated that the update would further clarify when the text being displayed is summarization provided by Apple Intelligence. This move underscores the broader challenges tech companies face in integrating AI into content delivery systems without compromising information integrity. The Irish Sun. Now, while international and internal concerns from Apple's engineers regarding the AI's reliability have not been publicly documented, the external feedback and subsequent feature suspension suggests that the company is actively addressing the technology's limitations. This situation highlights the critical need for rigorous testing and validation of AI systems, especially when they are responsible for disseminating news and information to the public. You will not assimilate me. Associated Press, The Sun, New York Post. Apple blasted after AI-generated news summary falsely claims Pete Hegseth was fired. Wildly irresponsible. Hey, AI isn't perfect. It made a mistake, okay? It had a hallucination. China is on the cutting edge right now with scientists. Meanwhile, America watches more reality TV. Recent analysis indicates that China has surpassed the United States in several key scientific metrics, reflecting its growing prominence in global research. A 2024 report by Shenzhen-based data firm Dongbi Data revealed that China now leads in the number of top-tier scientists. The study analyzed data from 2020 to 2024, showing that China's share of high-level science and technology experts rose from 17 to 20%, while the U.S. share declined from nearly 33% to 27%. You can read about that, the Express Tribune. Additionally, China's contribution to high-quality scientific publications has seen significant growth. In 2022, China accounted for 27.2% of the world's most cited papers, those ranking in the top 1% in terms of citations, surpassing the U.S., which contributed 24.9%. South China Morning Post. These developments underscore China's rapid advancement in scientific research and its increasing influence on the global stage. Yeah, that's true. But hey, man, we got cooking shows here. We got Forged in Fire. We can watch stuff on TV. We can spend $10 on a latte, and then we can complain about stuff all day on social media. It's amazing. America! Oh, yeah! Hey, Billy. Billy, don't you call my number. Oh, wait. What is it? Yeah. You're not anywhere that I can't find you. Oh, Billy. Billy, don't you call my number. Or how does that song go? Phil Collins? Anyway. It is what it is, folks. It is what it is. Eat more GMO. Watch more reality TV. And believe the extremes. Like, everything's extreme now on TV. And the news caters to its audience. And I seem to piss everybody off. So, there you go. That's why I'm probably not mainstream news. Because I'm not going to cater to something that I don't believe in. And the more research I do, the more things seem to change. So, I follow the lead. Follow the data. And it's okay to make mistakes once in a while. But I just have a hard time. Like, you watch these news networks out there, and News Nation's pretty cool. I haven't watched enough of their political stuff because just political stuff drives me nuts. I like the people at the local level and certain levels. And, you know, I've never met a governor or a president, so I don't know. They might be super awesome. I'm actually impressed with some of the governors that I'm, you know, like following on social media right now. And it's weird that I would even say that, but it's true. I think there's some people out there that are doing great jobs. And I think that, like, if anything, you got to have crazy thick skin to be a politician. That's all I have to say. Because especially with social media and AI now, oh my gosh, like, no matter how much you're trying to help people, there's always going to be somebody out there that just rips into you. Like, I watched a video and I thought it was kind of funny. It was like a 15-second video where Governor Jared Polis was saying, hey, we're going to get rid of a bunch of these old laws and stuff. And he had like, I don't know, some paper that probably cost like 5 cents. It was, I mean, who knows? And he put it through a shredder and he's like, we're getting rid of it. And he shredded it. And then I'm reading the comments and people are like, oh, there you go, wasted money again on a such and such video and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, that was probably 5 cents. Lighten up, man. Chill out. So people just, they know everything on the internet. They'll say what they want on the internet half the time and they don't care. So to be a politician, that's got to suck because there are a lot of bad apples out there. And so what do the good apples do? Like, how many are there? Well, there needs to be more of them. So may the force be with you, good apples. And maybe the bad apples can figure it out. I don't know. Whatever. But anyway, so there's some serious stuff going on right now, though, overseas. And how's everybody doing? Hope you're all having a beautiful day today. Is everything still working okay? All right, here we go. An historic move. This is interesting. So Sweden has developed approximately 500 deployed and developed. They developed the troops first, then they deployed them. 550 troops to Latvia, marking its most. I got intel the other day from somebody that lives in Italy saying that there's pamphlets going out and information going out in Sweden that they need to get prepared for potential conflict with Russia. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I did some research. Sure enough, Sweden has deployed about 550 troops to Latvia, marking its most significant NATO mission since joining the alliance in March of last year, 2024. The Swedish forces, part of a mechanized infantry battalion, arrived in Riga January 18th, 2025. Escorted by the Swedish Air Force and naval units, they will integrate into a Canadian-led multinational brigade stationed near Adazi, close to Latvia's borders with Russia and Belarus. Associated Press. Right on. Thank you very much. How many people are in the chat? Just wondering. This deployment underscores Sweden's commitment to NATO's collective defense and regional stability, especially in light of heightened tensions following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson emphasized that the contribution includes armored vehicles and Leopard tanks, Cheetah helicopters, and Lion submarines. The alliance's deterrence capabilities are enhancing the Straits Times. All right, thanks. Right on. Thank you all for being here with me. Latvian Prime Minister Ivica Salina welcomed the Swedish contingent, highlighting the strengthening of security in the Baltic Sea region and the collective defense of NATO allies. This collaboration reflects Sweden's transition from decades of neutrality to active participation in NATO's defense initiatives. So we've got troop deployments, naval contributions, armed forces expansion. Lots going on in Sweden right now. Civil preparedness. Wow. And did you know? So let's see what's going on with TikTok. TikTok's status in the United States is at a critical juncture due to national security concerns over its Chinese ownership. The U.S. Supreme Court has upheld a law requiring ByteDance, TikTok's parent company, to divest its U.S. operations by January 19th or face a nationwide ban. This decision stems from apprehensions about data privacy and potential influence by the Chinese government. Don't worry, Trump might save TikTok. In response, TikTok has gone offline in the U.S., displaying messages informing users of its unavailability. President-elect Donald Trump has indicated a possible 90-day extension to facilitate a resolution, while President Joe Biden's administration, which enacted the sell-off or seller ban legislation, supports American ownership of the app for security reasons. People.com. Now, I thought to myself, that's interesting. National security, national security. I get it. National security is super important. I think it is. Well, did you know that as of the end of 2022, Chinese investors owned approximately 349,442 acres of U.S. agricultural land, accounting for less than 1% of all foreign-held U.S. agricultural land. This is a slight decrease from 2021, when Chinese ownership stood at 383,935 acres. Factcheck.org. Now, what's interesting is they're really downplaying it in this revamp. When I did the research, like it's just a little bit, just a little tiny bit, and that's cool. But what's interesting is the amount of drone sightings that have been reported by these like mystery drone sightings, and the locations of these farmlands. Oftentimes they're close to very sensitive military sites. So, I mean, I'm just thinking to myself here, if we're going to ban TikTok, then what are they going to do about the farmland? What are they going to do about all the data and all the chips that are embedded in equipment and military sensitive information? I mean, this has been going on since the mid 2000s. So it's very interesting when you follow the data. And there you go. So once again, that UAP is pretty cool. That sphere egg. And when he had mentioned the SUV, how it was the size of an SUV, and then other military personnel had mentioned it was the size of an SUV, that would make sense. What have I been saying? I've been saying that I think that these UAPs that are being spotted, that they're not showing us, I think that they're spheres. Boom. What does News Nation come out with? Footage of a freaking egg shape. An egg. Very similar to a sphere. Wow. Wow. Any direction. Exactly what we've been talking about. Exactly what we've been talking about. So that's why you want to watch Leak Project, because we'll keep you ahead of the curve. Our forecasts are beyond the cutting edge. 25 out of 30 forecasts that we made at the end of 2023. 25 of those already partial hit or full hit. Many of those happened within days after those forecasts. So 2 of the forecasts that I made for this year, one we've already got a partial hit on, and that was with the sporting events that were delayed after the Cybertruck incidents. Interesting that both of those incidents involved electric vehicles. One was a Cybertruck, one was, I think, a Ford electric truck. They both rented their trucks from the same application, which is also very interesting. The one in Vegas and the one in New Orleans, both of those trucks were rented through the same application, both electric vehicles, kind of interesting. And then they had to delay the sporting event because of the incident in New Orleans. So so one of the predictions that I made for this year, another one was there's going to be a huge change in transportation. Oh my gosh. Cottonmouth. High elevation. Transportation. It's going to be a big change. There's going to be some revolutionary breakthrough in transportation, something in the medical field, sporting event. I don't know if that was the one that I predicted or if there's something else, but keep your eyes open. And I said, hey, I mean, it might, I don't know what it's going to be. It just came to me. So very interesting. Very interesting. Have a beautiful day. Do you have any questions? Concerns? Whoa. Grab a coffee. Thanks, Kat. Thank you very much. I will. I'm actually, yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't do oat milk anymore. I was doing oat milk for a while, but then I was doing research on oat milk, and most oat milk is, anyway, you're better off with healthy organic milk or water if you can get it. Weird comments in the comment section. BA says, thank you, Trump. TikTok is already back. Well, that was quick. The original says, oh, oat milk, ew. Yeah, not so much. What's up, Pono? Yeah, almond milk has a weird taste when it's heated up. Like if you're drinking it cold, it tastes okay, but if you're drinking it heated up, I'm not a fan. Nanu, citizen. Organic butter, delicious. I love organic butter. I had the most amazing interview with Bob Gilpatrick, and the way that he described food and the way most people cook their food. Most people cook their food way too hot. Yeah, and then he talked about the type of like to use either butter or if you can bison fat or something like that. Great interview. I need to go back and listen to it because most people are cooking and stuff that they probably, if they knew what some of the, yeah, not so good. Coconut milk can be good. Yes. Have a good day, Tony. Thank you so much. Somebody says, how do you milk an almond? Well, it's kind of like when you milk a cat, remember? Meet the Fockers. What was the name of that movie? Meet the Fockers. Fockers. And he's like, yeah, I had this little cat and I used to milk the cat. Kind of like that. You get each individual almond and you just have to milk it very, very delicately. You milk it and massage the, oh, it sounds so gross. No, I have no idea. Like what you do, you get almonds, you strain the almonds in water, I guess. That's probably how, yeah, I can't believe I just did that. I can't delete it either. It was live. Oh my gosh. It'd be like, we got Rex milking an almond on here. We're going to play that back. That's going to get 1 million views. Rex Bear on Leak Project attempts to milk an almond. He says you milk the almond like a cat. Yeah, can you? Oh man. Well, I'm glad somebody got a laugh out of it. All right, everybody, I better stop. Be excellent to each other and be the change you want to see. Check us out over on Patreon. We have some awesome stuff over there. I just uploaded an amazing interview on Patreon that you want to listen to with a gentleman that's director of the Aetherius Society. And they have a very fascinating theory of like the ET theory connected to Venus, as well as certain avatars. Now, it's a very interesting conversation. You know me, I've turned into a skeptic on just about everything, but a healthy skeptic. Whereas before, yeah, it was a little bit different. If you listen to me 8 years ago versus now, what, you know, when we talk about certain things, but it's good. It's good. And it makes some people a little upset, you know, because they're like, man, Rex, when you had on that person with the cloud eaters and he was talking about the clouds being alien food, that's when you were your best, man. When you were interviewing people like cloud guys. And I'm like, dude, seriously? Anyway, like, yeah, I can't do it. So be the change you want to